Hi everyone, this is a brief banner analysis video on the upcoming banner during Raijin's intersecting wheel, and the banner involved will feature Raijin with his LD newly released and a rerun of Kadaj with his LD. And of course, Stone's PT will also be featured on this banner. I'll start off actually with Kadaj because it's a more straightforward analysis. I sort of skipped Kadaj the first time around when he first debuted in Global, so I don't actually have a lot of experience using him, but from what I can see, Kadaj functions more like a hybrid DPS slash debuffer unit. He has two trademark debuffs. The first is Stigma, and Stigma is the debuff that allows him to actually gold frame all debuffs that he inflicts, Stigma itself included. The second debuff he has is a stacking debuff called Fixation that can actually increase from 1 to 5 stacks, and he increases the stacks depending on which attacks that he uses. Fixation functions in a similar way to General Leo's Precision Strike. If Kadaj switches targets, the Fixation stack will reset on his initial target, and you have to build up the stacks all the way to 5 again on a new target. When Fixation hits 5 stacks, all of Kadaj's attack on that enemy will also trigger a follow-up attack from Kadaj himself, and Kadaj uses this follow-up attack to supplement the damage that he does. I guess the unique thing about Kadaj is the fact that he is one of 3 characters in the entire roster who can actually inflict gold frame debuffs. The other 2 characters are Sephiroth with his LD and Laguna with his BT attack. What's different about Kadaj versus the other 2 units though is that all of Kadaj's debuffs that he inflicts are gold framed due to effects from the Stigma debuff. While Kadaj naturally can only inflict 2 debuffs, which is Stigma and Fixation, you could potentially give Kadaj, for an example, a sphere that actually lands a debuff as well, and the debuff from that sphere will also be gold framed. With the event, Kadaj himself will be getting a rework and of course his C90 upgrade. His rework will change his skill 1 and skill 2 and sort of bring up the damage more on par to the current meta. In addition, his follow-up attack will also be changed from 1 HP dump to 2 HP dumps. His C90 upgrade will change his EX so that his EX actually starts fully charged at the start of the battle. Overall, Kadaj's playstyle and kit remains largely the same as when he was released, except that the damage component has been upgraded to keep in line with the current meta. Unfortunately for Kadaj, while the concept of gold frame debuffs certainly seems interesting and of course is still quite a rare utility in the game currently, the truth is that there's actually not many fights that would require gold framed debuffs in the first place. Gold frame debuffs are debuffs that cannot be cleansed by any means necessary, even if the boss has an ability or HP threshold attack that can naturally cleanse all their debuffs. The gold framed debuffs will always still remain. So overall, I actually don't think that Kadaj is a unit worth spending a lot of resources for, unless he's of course a favorite character to use. The price of the banner is actually Raijin. In this game, Raijin functions as a support character with Paralysis utility, as well as a Thunder Enchanter and Imperaler. Previously, some of his drawbacks were that he's a rather slow character, and his Paralysis could only be inflicted once every 3 or so turns. One of the upcoming changes though is that his Lightning Discharge, which is the skill that inflicts paralysis, is going to be an instant turn skill that doesn't increase the turn count, and this means that right after that Raijin can take another action that will increase his stacks of Thunder by 1. That combined with his increased speed means that you can expect to land paralysis more often compared to his previous self. Overall, along with the fact that his base skills are also reworked to increase their damage to be more in line with the current meta, means that Raijin is now much more consistent as a paralysis inflictor in the party, and his utility is much easier to use. But that's not all. What's really loaded about Raijin and why many people really want to pull for him lies in the strength of his LD. His LD is one of the best defensive debuffs in the game, and you can actually even access this debuff when you use him as an LD call ability. Now it's only a 2-turn debuff, but in that single debuff you get the combined effects of 100% attack down, 20% HP damage up, 100% HP damage dealt reduction, and the inability to inflict debuffs while that debuff is up. This is one of the few defensive calls in the game that is based off debuffs. The other examples would include Reno's LD call, which inflicts pyramid but that only works off a single attack. And you have examples like Setzer or Kadaj's Brave Freeze. Because this debuff only reduces in duration when the enemies take their turn, you can, for example, inflict this at the start of the fight, and then you can do your usual no boss turn, and when the boss passes through certain HP thresholds, which is very common in Lufenia stages where they do their HP threshold attack, this debuff will kick in and ensure that that attack will do 0 HP damage because it's reduced by 100%, and that attack will also not deal any annoying debuffs. The inability to inflict debuffs alone is already pretty powerful because there's no other call abilities that can do this, save maybe for Reno's Pyramid, but again that debuff will only last for a single attack. Even if you feel that the rest of Raijin's kit is a little bit lackluster, and really I don't think it is, he is actually a pretty solid support, his LD debuff alone is really worth pulling for already and can be used across many stages to safeguard your team while you take down the bosses. The good thing is that you get the full effect of his debuff even as an LD call ability, so you don't really even need to bring Raijin in your main party to benefit from him. This is one of the LDs that I would strongly recommend pulling for because you are most certainly going to be getting value out of it across many different fights. Anyway, that's it for this video. As always, I hope the content has been helpful, and if you did enjoy the content, please leave a like, comment or subscribe, it really helps a lot. Till then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!